Alright, class. Alright, looks like I'm just noticed on my schedule here that I've got an error. I'll fix that for you guys. But anyway, this should say fall. If you ever see anything like that, just point it out to me. A few moving parts on my end. Sometimes I miss stuff, so sorry about that. Anyway, so I'm on here today with you to just check in, just give you a little more information. Alright, so you just rounded the corner of applications and software, so module 6. So that's putting us about just about halfway, or maybe a little less than halfway for the semester here. So applications and software, kind of a meaty chapter, meaty module, lots of things going on in there. In the module, here's some items that you should have spent some time on. Common software applications, email clients to web browsers. Yeah, so some of that stuff you're familiar with. Some of you may have been familiar with all of it. And then productivity collaboration software, uses of software on various jobs. Good. All right, learn how to safely install and remove software. That is scary to a lot of people. Shouldn't be to many of you guys since y'all are technology enthusiasts, but maybe. And then identify the CompTIA troubleshooting methodology. That's a valuable tool to have in your toolbox. Matter of fact, we can we bring that up in just about any class that is leading to a certification from CompTIA. But if you had any stumbles or any hesitations with any of this stuff, please reach out and let me know. Now we did talk about software licensing here. This kind of gets into lends itself well to a conversation about the ethics. Software can be expensive, and it can be sometimes cost prohibitive, it seems, even to. But if you need to use software for whatever purpose, you should go take the legally purchased way in order to use that software and not do any type of workaround or what they would call piracy in order to use the software. Many common softwares run into a subscription model these days where you never actually buy the software outright. You just paying to use the software for a period of time. You can get subscriptions various lengths of time, a month, year, or longer, depending on your need or the type of organization you work for. This is where they talk about piracy here. Probably better to avoid that. One, just for your own karma or your feelings of guilt, and then also because you could generally get in legal trouble, or you could even get stuck with some software that's been altered in some way in order to be used as a launch point into your enterprise. So it's better to stay away from pirated software. There's really no upside at all. All right, the standard troubleshooting process. Let's take a look at that real quick. All right, problems in your computer systems can happen for many reasons that you can't control, and some that don't seem very clear. Devices might stop working, old cable connectors can come loose, and software may get corrupted. Whether you're working on your own computer or a network, you will make everyone on the network happy by fixing problems and keeping systems working smoothly. To do this well, you need to know the basic tools and steps for troubleshooting a network. Fixing problems is an important part of tech knowledge and ability. Some problems can be very complex, and therefore it is important to follow the steps outlined. All right, got a good life cycle of a problem here. First step is to troubleshoot. Is to use a troubleshooting process that gives you a clear and complete set of steps called a standard operating procedure, or SOP, or an SOP. to fix IT problems. This procedure includes finding out what the problem is, thinking of possible solution, trying out the solution, and making sure the problem is fixed. CompTIA troubleshooting methodology is one example. Right, so it doesn't say that this is the only way to solve problems. It says this is a good methodology, and this is an example of a methodology that's been tried and proven and works. So let's just run through it here. All right, so you are identifying a problem. Right. You establish a theory or probable cause. You test the theory. You establish a plan of action to resolve. You implement the plan or escalate. You verify that you fixed it. Verification, and then document the findings. All right. So identifying the problem. All right. So you need to ask people who are having or who have reported the problem. You may need them to duplicate the problem for you so that you can see it for yourself. And then once you see the problem has been duplicated, you need to identify the symptoms of the problem, right? Sometimes you can get an onslaught of symptoms. When I stand on one foot, my right foot, my left foot hurts or whatever, and people will start giving you more information than sometimes you can handle. So you really have to take those symptoms one at a time and work each one independently. Try to find some kind of common theme. Right, you also need to understand any kind of changes to the network or the systems. IT is largely responsible for making changes to systems based on vulnerability updates, functionality updates, just seasonal updates depending on what's going on. So being aware of any recent changes and that correlating directly to a problem could be a way to shortcut find the solution. All right, once there is a cause been found, you once you've identified a problem, then you need to try to establish a theory of the probable cause. So sometimes the easiest solution is the likely solution. So you don't want to overlook anything easy just because. There's a funny but sometimes true saying about fixing system problems. Have you tried rebooting the system? Even though it sounds simple, restarting the system sometimes fix problems and is easy to do with little downside. Right, so that's very common, rebooting the system or restarting it, cycling the power, or whatever people will say it. Fixes a lot of problems, especially with computers. Now, the problem with that, if there is a problem with that, is if rebooting it fixes it, but then the problem returns, within a short amount of time again, and rebooting fixes it again, there might be a larger problem at play there that may have to be looked at deeper. It may only be a temporary solution. So we got to be careful with that one. And if you want to consider multiple approaches, they're not just one way to fix a problem. You want to stay on it. You want to start at one in the system and work you all the way through. Once you have a theory about what could be causing the problem, you need to confirm the theory. If you can confirm the theory that you've came up with, then you can move on to establish a plan and implement the fix. So whatever your theory is, you have to figure out a way in which you can implement that, and then you've got to keep up in mind any unintended consequences that can happen, at least any that you can foresee. If you have any data that needs to be backed up, that needs to be done. You implement the solution. Or you escalate the issue. Maybe the solution is bigger than you have control over, then you need to escalate to someone that does. Once you've implemented the solution, you need to verify that it works. You can verify from your point of view, but it's also really important that the user who was having the problem originally verifies it from their point of view. And then you document, what you did, what you discovered, and what you did to fix it. That will help other people and maybe even yourself in the future, just in case a similar or the same problem occurs again. And you want to provide much detail as possible because this is going into, historical, like knowledge base that could keep this problem from occurring again, or even if it does, make the downtime or the impact less. All right, there is a quiz here on the methodology. I suggest you do. All right, we're getting to the career section, which I think we might actually just skip that. All right, so for next week, you're around the corner to operating systems, so be ready for that. All right, keep pushing forward and make sure to stay on schedule. Thanks.